Anyways, well, I grew up in San Diego, California. Love it there. My dad's been like a worship pastor ever since I've been alive. My mom's, she's just an awesome woman of God, just always steered me in the right direction. And so it's because of that, at a young age, I started reading these books that I absolutely love to this day. Maybe you're familiar with them. They're called the Chronicles of Narnia. Yeah, I know, they're amazing. I grew up loving these books. I couldn't put them down once I started. And the one I started on was called The Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe, which is kind of like the most well-known one. I remember my mom giving it to me saying, I need to read this book. And she said there's an awesome line in it. And I was like, yes, because like, as a young boy, like, I had like the little stupid plastic figurines of like robots, dinosaurs, lions, and sharks. That was just what I loved. And occasional Ninja Turtle. But for some reason I always just loved the lion. I just like, man, if I could, well, that's a stupid thing to say, I'm not going to say it. I was going to say, if I could be an animal, I'd be a lion. I'm not going to say it. And so I'm like, sweet, a lion, yes. And so I start reading this book, and I'm going through it, and I'm like, this lion's name is Aslan. I'm starting to get to know him, and then I realize, oh, he's kind of like the god of Narnia. This is cool. He's powerful. Everybody loves him. He's awesome. And then there's like this wicked witch, and she tries to destroy everything, and I'm like, sweet, Aslan's going to kill this witch. It's going to be awesome. But then this stupid kid named Edmund comes along and ruins it all. I was like, what in the world is going on? Like, these 4 brothers and sisters, they get to go into this magical world of fawns and fun things that I would even leave you guys here for if I could. I mean, I would love to dance with the fawns sometime. It'd just be fun. It would be awesome though to go to, I've always dreamed of going to Narnia since I was a little kid. It'd just be awesome. And I was so frustrated with this kid named Edmund because he's just like, first thing he did when he got in there was pretty much just, he's all about Edmund. He's all about himself. He wants this dessert that I didn't even know what it was, a Turkish delight, and he would betray everybody just for more Turkish delight. I was just like, what is going on? And he betrayed everybody in Narnia, and I'm just so frustrated with him. I just remember thinking, I can't wait till that big lion just smacks the head off this kid when they meet. It's going to be awesome. He's going to slit his throat, bite his jugular, do something to this kid. And then when they meet up, both armies are like coming together. I'm like, sweet, no one can stand against the mighty Aslan. I'm like, this is going to be awesome. He's just going to kill everybody. The punishment for betrayal is death. And so I'm like, sweet. So Aslan's walking up to Edmund. They have like this little powwow up in the hill. No one really knows what they're talking about. Then like Edmund does get really punished. Aslan comes back and pretty much says that, hey, I'm going to take Aslan's place. I'm going to die. And I remember being like, oh, what in the world is going on with this book? This is the most annoying book I've ever read in my life. And I remember running down to my mom and being like, Mom, what is going on with this? Like, the lion is going to die now. Like, Edmund's living. Like, what kind of book did you give me to read? This is so frustrating. And she was just, just like kind of took a pause for a moment and said, you know what it kind of reminds me of, Phil? In her kind of nice, pastor's wife voice, You know what it kind of reminds me of, Phil? That's like Kit. My mom doesn't sound like Kit, but it's like, you know what that kind of reminds me of, Phil? It's like, it kind of reminds me of another story I've heard before. I think you have too. It's kind of like how Jesus died on the cross for your sins. I mean, you didn't really earn it or even deserve it, but he did it for you anyway because he loved you. And he's like, and I remember like taking a step back and like thinking, is there some kind of like hidden meaning in the story or something, And went back up to my room and started thinking about it, and like it just kind of clicked in my mind, like, whoa, this is a picture of Jesus. Like, Aslan is giving himself for Edmund because out of love, out of sacrifice. And of course Edmund didn't deserve it. I don't deserve it. And it's the first time I connected like the cross, the relevance of the cross in my mind with myself. It's like the first time the cross became relevant to me. Like, whoa, it's not just the story I hear every Sunday I go to church on those stupid green felt boards that people use for some reason. I always hated those things. But you know what I'm talking about? Little felt Peter with little felt burning bush, little felt Moses. I hated that. But it was the first time it like became more than just that green felt board, and I loved it. I started eating it up, and all that to say, this next song has nothing to do with the Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe. Oh, it kind of does. It's another chronicle, but I started eating up the rest of them, and I got to the Voyage of the Dawn Treader. And this one, like, I loved because it was like, the Dawn Treader was a ship. The voyage, and they took this voyage, Okay, let me start later or earlier. All right. There's this character in the Voyage of the Dawn Treader. I'm going to make this quick. His name's Reepicheep, and he's this mouse, and he has boots, and he can talk, and he's got a hat, and he's kind of nerdy, I know, but I loved him. And he's given this promise when he was like this little mouse teen, this little mouse tween. when he was like this little mouse kid, he was given this promise that before he died, if he sailed east, he would get to Aslan's country. And Aslan's country to Narnia was like heaven. It's like, it'd be like, you know, giving a promise, Jesus coming down and giving a promise to you saying, hey, if you walk this way, if you sail the boat this way, or if you keep doing this, you're going to get to heaven, you're not going to have to die, you're going to see me before you die. And you're like, sweet. And it's like something you just, because Jesus came, gave it right to you, you're going to believe it forever, you know? And so Aslan gave him this promise, and so he's just like holding on to it and looking over the ocean every day, just waiting for like a time to come for some like brave crew to go. And he finds out that the king and all his warriors are going to take this voyage east where the sun rises, because that's where it's rumored that Aslan's country is. And so he hops on this boat, and they're going to these eastern islands to save some people, all this stuff, but it's rumored that they're going to try to make it all the way to Narnia. And so he's like, I'm in for this. And he can't do much on the boat because he's just a mouse, you know. He pretty much watches the water at night so no one can take it, you know. And he's like the night watchman. It's pretty much all he can do. He can't steer the boat. He can't, I don't know what else you do on boats, but he can't do those things. But the cool thing about Ruby Ship is this, is that, and during this voyage, I mean, you can imagine all the fantastical things that can happen to you when you're going into uncharted waters. I mean, sea serpents and crazy storms and droughts and crazy things on these islands they go to. All these things make these warriors, even the king himself, doubt their faith in Aslan. It makes them want to turn around. It makes them scared. It makes them want to mutinize. Every one of them gets freaked out at one point and says, we need to turn back. But there's always this little mouse English voice saying, no, we need to go further in, you know, with this little sword. And it's like this little mouse with this massive heart. And what has given him such this courageous, massive heart is that he has this promise that he holds on to. And it's just like us. As when we believe in Christ, like what we've been saying all night, when we believe that Jesus died on the cross and rose from the dead, and not just believe, but also live our lives accordingly, that he is God, when we do that, we've been given this gift of salvation. And with this gift of salvation, there's no hand, there's no death, there's no devil, there's no height or depth that can steal that away. All we have to do is continue looking towards heaven. Like, we just have to sail our boat and let God take us. We have to respond to his love in our lives. As long as we're keeping our eyes on heaven, there's nothing that is going to take away the promise that we will see him face to face one day. And that's what I got out of this book. Like the fourth time I read it. Probably wasn't old enough to see that when I was like 9 when I read the first time, but about the fourth time, which is right, and I wrote this song right after, I was so impacted by this really simple but beautiful thought that C.S. Lewis had in this story.